Thanks, Karen. We see we're at 7 o'clock, so I think we'll get started. I'll call our council meeting of August 10th to order. And first thing we need to deal with is to adopt the agenda. So I suggest it's moved by Sherry, seconded by Steve, that the agenda for August 10th, 2020 regular meeting of council be accepted and passed. Any questions or comments on that? All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We're on to disclosure of pecuniary interest. I have none this evening. Steve?
None.
Sherry?
No.
Dan?
No.
And Lisa? Okay, thank you. So now that we've got the council meeting started, we're going to recess it so we can deal with the Committee of Adjustment and public meeting. And for this recommendation, I'm going to say it's moved by Dan, seconded by Lisa, that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North recess the regular council meeting of August 10th, 2020 for the purpose of holding a public meeting under the Planning Act. It's in regard to a minor variance application for Andrew and Cheryl Baker and a zoning amendment for Edward E. Watt. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We are in recess from our council meeting. So we'll switch over to our Committee of Adjustment. That is the proper order, is it, Karen? Committee of Adjustment first?
On the agenda, it shows that the Baker minor variance will be first, but it doesn't matter.
Okay. Just wondered whether we have participants in this one that
No, we
the
don't.
timing mattered for.
Nope.
Okay, so let's call the Committee of Adjustment meeting to order, and we'll go through the disclosure of pecuniary interest, and this is on anything on this agenda. I have none. Lisa?
No.
Dan?
No.
Sherry?
No.
And Steve?
None.
Okay, thank you. Excuse me for a minute. I left a sheet on the printer. Carlos should be better prepared, shouldn't he? Okay. So first we're going to deal with the minutes of the previous meeting. And I'm going to suggest that that's moved by Steve, seconded by Sherry, that the Committee of Adjustment meeting minutes July 6, 2020 for A04/20 and A05/20 be adopted as presented. Any questions or comments on those minutes? All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Now the owner applicant in this case, so application A07/20, the owner applicant in this situation is Andrew and Cheryl Baker. The location of the subject property is as East Owen Sound Road, part lot 22, part divisions 3 and 4, registered plan 60R3383, parts 1 to 3, and is municipally known as 9057 Highway 6, Kenilworth. The property is approximately 3.38 hectares in size, and the location is shown on the map in your package. The purpose and effect of the application to provide relief from the maximum floor area and height requirements for an accessory structure. The applicants are proposing to construct a new riding arena with a floor area of 808.6 square meters and a height of 10.36 meters. Whereas the bylaw permits a maximum floor area of 464.5 square meters and a height of 6.7 meters. Other variances may be considered where deemed appropriate. How is notice given for this meeting?
Notices were mailed to property owners within 60 meters of the subject property, as well as to the applicable agencies. Signage was posted on the property on July 30th, 2020.
Okay, thank you. Matthew, I see you're with us. Would you mind giving us the rundown on this application, please?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before us today is a minor variance, as you indicated. So they're seeking to to provide relief from the maximum floor area as well as the height requirements for an accessory structure. The applicant is proposing to construct a riding arena for personal use. The riding arena would not be uncharacteristic, of the area, and the size and the height are specific to the use. All in all, we have no concerns with the application. The request is minor as well as desirable. Happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you. Has there been any further correspondence received in respect to this application?
No, there hasn't.
Okay. Is there any persons present who wish to make any comments? Karen?
Bakers were on the line. I was going to move them to permit them to speak, and I see that they're gone now.
Okay. We don't have anyone else registered to speak on this application?
No. No, we don't.
Okay, well, I guess we'll move to the committee. Any comments or questions from the committee? Anybody have any questions or comments?
No.
Okay, seeing lots of shaking heads.
Oh,
So-
they're not back yet. No.
Okay. So I guess, yeah, I think we've gone through all the steps. It's now we're down to just a show of hands, all those in favor of approving this. That's carried, so that's approved. Any persons wishing notice of decision must request in writing by contacting the clerk. Karen, go
I
ahead.
know you've approved it. The Bakers are back on. I don't know. Does anybody have any questions for them?
Anybody have any questions for the Bakers?
I do not.
No.
I
Okay.
don't think so, Karen. So
Thank you.
we've already approved it. I hope they're pleased with that. So any persons wishing notice of the decision must request in writing by contacting the clerk. And I think that brings us to adjournment. So I'm going to say that's moved by Lisa, seconded by Dan, that the Committee of Adjustment meeting of August 10th, 2020 be adjourned. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We're adjourned from the Committee of Adjustment. And we'll move now to our public meeting for a rezoning application. And I'll call the public meeting to order and ask if there's any disclosure of pecuniary interest yet again tonight. This is in regard to any items on this agenda. I have none. Steve?
I do not.
Lisa?
No.
Dan?
No.
And Sherry?
No.
Okay. So the owner applicant in this case is Edward E. Watt. The location of the subject land, the land subject to the proposed amendment is described as Part Mill Property, Mitchell Survey Registered Plan 61R 20240, Parts 7 to 3, and known municipally as 200 to 240 Francis Street East, geographic town Village of Arthur. The property is 1.01 hectares in size, and again, the location is shown on the map in your package. The purpose of the amendment is to remove the holding symbol and rezone the subject lands from R1CH to R2 to allow for future residential development. The holding symbol has been applied to the property in order to provide council with an opportunity to ensure that sufficient municipal water and sewer capacity is available for the use, and a satisfactory stormwater management plan has been completed in consultation with the Grand River Conservation Authority. How is notice given for this meeting?
Notices were mailed to property owners within 120 meters of the subject property, as well as to the applicable agencies. Signage was posted on the property on July 20th, 2020.
Okay. Matt, we'll get you to run through this one, please.
For sure. Thank you, Mayor Lennox. The application for us today, the zone amendment, is seeking to rezone the subject lands from low density residential holding, so HR R1C to medium density residential R2. So as mentioned, there is a hold on the land as of right now. So to ensure the township has sufficient municipal water as well as sewage capacity. The rezoning would seek to remove this hold on the land, and upon speaking with township staff, it was indicated that the capacity was there. The applicant's end goal, here is to sell the subject lands, and as a means of marketability, they're looking to apply the R2 zoning on the lands to permit future residential development. And from my understanding of speaking with the applicant, they have a prospective buyer that's interested in the R2. So hence the application before us. So a portion of the property is within the GRCA hazard lands, and the GRCA has provided comments and confirmed that there's no concerns with the proposed zone amendment. So as a result, we have no concerns with the application. I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you. I see we have correspondence in our package from Source Water, the school board, and from Keith Harris. Has any further correspondence been received in respect to this application?
Yes, Matthew referred to the GRCA. We received that. It's not listed on the agenda. They have no objections. And we received County of Wellington Engineering Services with no objections.
Okay, thank you. So anyone requesting notice of the decision, the bylaw will be considered at the regular council meeting, which immediately follows this public meeting. But persons wishing notice of the passing of the bylaw must submit a written request. With that said, I'll open the floor for any comments or questions from the public. Do we have anyone registered to speak on this one, Karen?
No, we don't.
Okay. So I guess we can move on from that one fairly quickly. Any comments or questions from council?
I have none.
No.
Okay.
Oh, I'm good.
Okay. I know from the conversations I had with the applicant, they were keen to get the R2 designation to help them with the future development of those lands. So I think this will be lots appropriate for semi-detached, and it'll be a good location for it within the built area in Arthur. So if there's nothing further, we'll move on to adjournment. And so I have a recommendation here. I'm going to say it's moved by Sherry, seconded by Steve, that the public meeting of August 10th, 2020 be adjourned at 7:13 p.m. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We're adjourned from the public meeting. We'll go back to our council meeting now. So I've got the motion here to resume our council meeting, moved by Steve, seconded by Sherry, that the council of the corporation of the Township of Wellington North resume the August 10th, 2020 regular meeting of council. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And right away, we'll deal with the bylaw from the public meeting. I'm going to suggest that's moved by Lisa, seconded by Dan, and the recommendation is the bylaw number. Karen, we don't have numbers attached to this yet?
Yes, that bylaw is number, I'm sorry, that bylaw is number, that got missed in the agenda, sorry.
Okay. I just didn't recognize the 0XX in your numbering system.
That's a different numbering system. It is 6620.
66-20, okay. So again, that's moved by Lisa, seconded by Dan. The recommendation is that bylaw number 66-20 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 66-01 being a zoning bylaw for the Township of Wellington North be read at first, second, and third time and enacted. And this is in regard to Park Mill property Mitchell Survey, registered plan 61R 20240, parts 7 to 3, municipally known as 200 to 240 Francis Street East, geographic town of Arthur, per Edward Watt. Any discussion on that? All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Brings us to our adoption of minutes from the council and public meeting from July 27th. I'm going to say that this recommendation is moved by Sherry, seconded by Steve, that the minutes of the regular meeting of council and the public meeting held on July 27th, 2020 be adopted as circulated. Any questions or comments on those minutes? All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. I don't think we have any business from arising from previous meetings of council tonight. So that brings us into items for consideration. So let's pull out those items for consideration that we need to discuss tonight. So we'll pull 2A, right, Karen, because of that insert?
That is correct.
I'd like to pull, is it still 2F, I guess it is?
And can we pull 4A?
4A, sure. Okay, any others? So just to recap, so far we've got 2A, 2F, 4A, and that's it so far. Any others this evening? Last call for any others? Okay, hearing no others, then we'll deal with all the ones that we haven't pulled. And I have a recommendation here moved by Dan, seconded by Lisa, that all items listed under items for consideration on the August 10th, 2020 council agenda, with the exception of those items identified for separate discussion, be approved and the recommendations therein be adopted. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. So that brings us back to 2A. This is in regard to the consent application B78/18. I'm going to suggest that's moved by Steve, seconded by Sherry. And doesn't appeal to me. I'll read this one out because of the addition. The recommendation is that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North received report DC 2020-17, being a report on consent application severance B78-18, known as Part Lot 3, West Owen Sound Road, Divisions 3 and 4 in the former Township of Arthur. And further, that the Council of the Township of Wellington North supports consent application B78-18 as presented, with the following conditions. 1, that the payment be made of the fee of $130, whatever fee is applicable at the time of clearance under the municipal fees and charges bylaw for a letter of clearance. Secondly, that a parkland dedication fee be paid of $1,000 per lot or part lot created in 2020. And thirdly, that the owner satisfy all requirements of the local municipality, financial and otherwise, for the proper and orderly development of the subject lands, including but not limited to outstanding taxes. And fourthly, that zoning compliance be achieved to the satisfaction of the local municipality. And finally, that the owner address stormwater management to the satisfaction of the township engineer on the retained parcel. And further, the council authorizes the development clerk to file with the secretary treasurer of the Planning and Land Division Committee at the County of Wellington a letter of clearance of these conditions on completion of same. Okay, any discussion on that one? Sherry, go ahead.
I just have a question with regards to the last portion of that, with regards to the letter that we received and the stormwater management condition that's just been added. Should that not be dealt separately from this planning request? Because it's from the past development. Should it not be done separately? Or should, I'm just asking, it's a procedural thing that sort of seems like it's two separate issues.
Okay. Darren, do you feel like tackling that one?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Lennox. So the site plan application was completed, and the development file was closed. It came to our attention after the fact that the approved stormwater management system may have been altered. So this is kind of our chance to make sure that the stormwater management system will work in its current state.
Okay. Does that address your question, Sherry?
Well, I mean, I understand why we're doing it, but because that previous file was closed, are there not other avenues so that we can support this consent application without attaching this condition to it, is my question, I guess.
Okay. Mike, I saw you had your hand up. Do you want to weigh in on this?
Yeah, I think Darren will as well. I just wanted to clarify, and this maybe doesn't matter at this point based on the follow-up question, that at the time when the site plan was submitted, this was all one site, and now we're creating two separate sites in theory, I guess, from a planning perspective. I was just going to provide that clarification, but I think Darren wants to maybe speak to the condition itself.
Okay. Go ahead, Darren.
Thank you. If the property owner is unwilling to cooperate, our only other avenue outside of this process would be to take legal action, and there would be some costs associated to the township. The severed parcel is downstream of the retained parcel, so the severed parcel will be the first property affected by the stormwater management system if it's not functioning properly.
So if during this severance process, we don't ensure that the stormwater management is appropriate, it could have legal consequences down the road as well then because of the being out of compliance.
That's right. From the potential purchaser, if that property is sold on the severed plans, and if we need to take the issue farther.
Okay. Anything further on that, Sherry?
No.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I'll call the motion then. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay. Now we move over to 2F. And this is in regard to the planning report related to the public meeting that we had at our last meeting on the 27th of July, or 29th of July, sorry. And the recommendation here, I'm going to say, is moved by Lisa, seconded by Dan, that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive the planning report prepared by Matthew Dayu, planner, dated July 29th, 2020, regarding 350 Cork Street, Mount Forest, This is for the zoning bylaw amendment and the correspondence from Chris McGackie dated July 29th, 2020 regarding concerns with proposed development of 350 Cork Street in Mount Forest. Open the floor for any discussion on that. Dan? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I still have a number of concerns. I received an email, I guess it was late yesterday from the developer in regards to this. I'm not sure if the rest of council received it as well. But you know, it would have been, I guess, a little more courteous, or would have been courteous to get that email shortly after the last meeting, but instead of the day before we were going to deal with this. But I still have concerns about emergency services, stormwater management, ditch maintenance, compatibility, and I'm not sure if an easement is required in regards to ditch maintenance, or how that whole issue will be handled. So those are my concerns with this development, and compatibility is also a big one in there too. I think we're squeezing in something into a tight spot here that may not just be suitable for that location.
Okay. Karen, I see you have your hand up.
One of the developers is attending. I could make him a participant if people have questions. Any member of council has a question.
Okay. Let's get through a first round of discussion first, and then we'll see where we go. So in regards to the ditch maintenance issue, do we have a plan? I don't remember seeing that in the reports. Can somebody refresh mine and Dan's memory in regard to that? Darren, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Lennox. We have opportunity to request an easement for ditch maintenance through site plan approval. So we do have that opportunity to ask for that.
Okay. So does that ditch, is it reside on that property, or does it reside on other property that we own?
The property line, I believe, is the center of the ditch.
Okay.
The municipality does not own property on the other side of the ditch.
So it would be that if maintenance needed to occur, it would affect the property owner across the line as well.
Potentially. Yes, it would.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Steve? You're muted, Steve.
Sorry, is this regulated by any of the conservation authorities? Like, would this be under Saugeen, like the municipal drain, or have they weighed in on it at all?
Darren, go ahead.
It's in the area of Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority. They've written to us back with one of the original developments, and they still refer to that report. It's not regulated by SVCA.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Sherry, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a lot of the same concerns that Dan has already addressed, but the other concern I have is that the building is going to be, I'm going to say, oversized for the lot. So they're asking for relief for buffering as well. And I just think that maybe if they built something that was a little bit more suitable for that property, I think I read that they could get away with 4 units as opposed to 6 and still meet some of those requirements that would make it fit better into that neighborhood.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
Just along with what Sherry had spoken to, would we have to make an amendment to go from 6 to 4 if that was suitable to council? If that was the way we went, or?
Well, I'll probably call on Darren to clarify, but I believe that 4 is acceptable the way it's zoned currently. It would need, the rezoning is required to do the 6 as opposed to 4. Have I got that right, Darren?
Not quite. Under the current zoning, they would be allowed a 4-unit street townhouse, which means all 4 units would need to front on Cork Street. They need the relief to allow the cluster townhouse unit, which provides 1 access to Cork Street, 6 units.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Steve?
Yep, thank you.
Okay. So just to come back to your question, Steve, based on what Darren's saying, I think we would have to amend the bylaw if we were to reduce the number. And probably would have to send it back to staff to rewrite it because there might be different setbacks and so on as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And I just wanted to make a few comments myself. I think this is a particularly interesting application in that it represents some of the things that we've talked about extensively as needs in our community. Things like purpose-built rental, which we know is in extremely short supply, and this helps to work toward addressing that need to some extent. I think the other piece that's really important as well is that we've communicated to the development community that we want to see infill. We want to see a little higher density to bring the price point down for residents, because we know that the people at the bottom end of the market are finding affordability a huge issue. And so by going to a slightly larger number of units with a greater density, it's helping to move in that direction as well. And I mean, I understand the neighbors' concerns around the compatibility piece. They've had quite a number of years of having an open, undeveloped lot in their backyard, and to move to a townhouse which will be fenced off from a privacy perspective is a big change for them. And I completely get that. I struggle with these types of situations in that if we don't support it, and yet it represents so much of the things that we've identified that we need in our community, then that sends a message to other potential developments and may discourage it. I think that, things like stormwater management and emergency access should be, be able to be addressed by professionals through the site plan process. And I just think that, there are other similar housing in the area that I think fits reasonably well. I think they're doing a lot of things well in terms of making sure they have more than adequate parking, and to help address the, so that there won't be on-street parking, which we recognize that that's potentially a busy street. So keeping it off the street is beneficial. I think this is just one of those that checks so many of the boxes that we believe we need in our community, and does it on existing services, which helps to reduce the cost of water and sewer services for everybody long term. So yeah, I completely get the neighbors' concerns, and I know that it's a sacrifice to them to accept a development in their backyard like this. But I think, if we balance the good that we need for the community with the negative that they may experience, I think it comes out on a positive. So with that said, I'll go around the table and once again see if anybody else has further comments, and then we'll draw it to a vote. Dan, go ahead. Go ahead, Dan.
I don't disagree with anything that you've said, Mayor Lennox, in regards to density and the need for affordable housing and everything that comes along with that. I agree 100%. We've been talking about it for a long time, about how do we how do we accommodate that in the community? But I don't think we can just start, there has to be a plan and a good plan. And I don't think we can start putting higher density housing in places just helter-skelter. And that's what I think has happened with this development. I agree with everything you said, like I said, but this is the wrong place for this type of development.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Sherry, go ahead.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think that infill lots should be more consistent with the neighborhoods that the builds in those neighborhoods should be consistent. I still also have extreme concern with that drainage ditch. It drains several properties back in behind there. It's not going to just affect one or two neighbors or that particular site. But again, agree with everything that you've said, Mayor Lennox, about affordable housing for first-time buyers or renters and seniors, but this isn't the appropriate place for it.
Okay. Steve?
Just curious, to Dan and Councillor Burke, what would you suggest would be a good use of this land? Just curious.
Well, if I may,
Yeah.
I've already suggested that something along the lines of what is already on that street, a sixplex. There's one squished in on Queen Street that I didn't feel at that time was a good fit there either. It's just the wrong place. If they were going to do a row of townhouses of 3 or 4, but a complex like this in a tight space like that, what they're proposing, isn't a good fit. I don't believe it's a good fit.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Go ahead, Steve.
But 4 would be okay, if I understand you correctly, Sherry?
If that's what fits, because they're proposing the fact that they can't put in any buffering because they're going to be too close to the ditch if they have to put in buffering. What it's zoned for now, if they can do a 4-row townhouse, there's some townhouses along there now, that would be fine. But I don't think rezoning it so that it's a higher density is appropriate.
Matt, I saw you have your hand up.
Yeah, if I can just make a little clarification for the buffer strip, it's actually only for the rear lot line. So that it wouldn't really be along the creek. It would simply be on the rear lot line, on the back portion, if you would, of the property. That's the only relief that's being requested in regards to that buffer strip, which is, you know, in one circumstance, it could be, you know, landscaping or a fence or a tree line, whatever the applicant might choose to put in that space. But in this circumstance, he feels that it isn't warranted to put that buffer strip there, and he's seeking request for that.
Okay, thank you. Any other final questions or comments? Go ahead, Dan.
So if I can ask Matt this question then, so at the backs of these units, there's going to be no buffering. There's going to be no trees. They're not going to be required to put any fencing up or anything. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, so that's correct. And my understanding from speaking with the applicant just on that point there is he's indicated that there's already mature trees in that area in the back portion, as well as it just given the sight lines of the residents on the other street, it wouldn't really impact the houses on the neighboring side road, given that it's simply just grassed area if you look at the configuration of the lot.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Now, but this conversation stirred up another question for me. So, I was understanding that there was fencing involved with this, and now I'm not so sure. So, just can we clarify that, please? Then I'll come back to you, Dan.
Okay.
Darren, I see you popped up. You got.
Yes, my understanding of the buffering would be that the backs of the units would have a fence, but the back lot line, which would be adjacent to, would be the side wall or the side yard for the 6th unit. That's where the buffering wouldn't be required.
So you broke up a little bit, Darren. That just.
Yeah, sorry, could you repeat that, Darren? I didn't kind of catch all of that.
My understanding of the site plan application is that the rear of the rear of each unit would have the buffering between the neighboring lots. The only place that I believe they're looking for relief would be the back property line of the property, and that would only be the side yard of the 6th unit.
So that would be the east property extent. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so the properties that front on Waterloo Street would have the adequate buffer.
That's the way I believe I read their application.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Dan, I know you had your hand up again.
Well, that pretty much answered that kind of answered the question. It's still not clear. We've always been adamant about the fact that when there's neighbors' concerns about development and that buffering, whether it be mounds, trees, or fences, be required. And I'm still unclear as to what that's going to look like. It still doesn't give me that warm feeling this is going to be the right area for this development, whether there's fencing or buffering there. So it kind of answered my question, but not to the extent that I need.
Okay, thank you. Okay, last, Karen, go ahead.
Does anybody want to question the applicant?
I suppose we could do that, get this clarified. Yeah, go ahead, Karen, if you can
I'll
set
move
that
to-
up.
It'll just take him a minute to rejoin as a panelist. Oh, there he is.
Okay,
You'll have to unmute. Okay, he should be there.
Hello.
hi Josh, I assume you've heard the discussion.
Yeah. So yes. So
And
just
I guess we're. Go ahead.
yeah. So I just wanted to clarify what we're asking here. So the Darren was correct there with how he's reading it. So all the backs of the units will have decks, and then they'll also have a fence across that whole entire property. And then the only one we were asking buffering was along the back property line. And that was just simply because no one was actually, the direct sight line of that property goes all the way past. So there was no one directly looking into the side of our building. I mean, we would be more than fine to put that in. It just didn't really seem like a reason to have that fence continue around the corner, but it wouldn't be a problem to do. I think there would just be some more trees that were taken down if that would be the case, but it wouldn't be a problem. And so I guess just to reiterate some of the concerns here. And so we're just, again, when we experience other rentals in the community, they've reached out to us and they've all asked for garages and easy access to their units. And so I know there is some concerns from neighbors about drainage, but also just the site of the building and stuff. But on the contrary, we've had a lot of the community reach out to us and say this is what they want. And so we plan this property so that it would please future residents of Mount Forest. So we're just trying to do, we're not, I mean, yes, we are trying to get 6 units, but we also are trying to fill a need that we've had consume us. Like we had probably over 100 applicants on 6 units on Queen Street. And so there's a big need for this in the community. And every single resident that we actually took as tenants were seniors that lived in the community. They owned farms or houses, and they were in desperate need of somewhere to, you know, retire or just kind of slow down a little bit. And so that's, you know, again, we understand that this is a narrow property, but going to 4 units, I just don't see how it's going to affect the concerns of the neighbors. I think they're going to see a driveway with the building. If it's a triplex or a 6plex, I don't see the use. I don't see their concerns changing. All those things have to go through the site plan, which we're concerned about the drainage ditch and the maintenance of that as well, because it's our property. We even back onto it on Queen Street as well, which we currently own. And, you know, we want to make sure that's done proper. And that's why we're going to go through the site plan approval and make sure that everything gets taken care of, I guess. So I completely hear the neighbor's concern, but I don't see it being a difference if they're going to have 4 vehicles in the parking lot or 6. Like, these units are probably going to be a bit larger if they're 4 units as well. So the actual envelope, I know there are some variances even needed for anything on the property. So I don't want to say that we can just build whatever we want, because we can't. But even if we were to do 4, we'd probably increase the footprint of those 4 units. So they would still be looking at something very, very similar. So I appreciate what you said, Mr. Lennox, about the need for this. And I don't understand how it would look any different to the neighbors. I understand if they can say that nothing can be built there. And yeah, it is a beautiful area, and it's, you know, there's nice trees that we have to take down, but, you know, it is our property. And this is what we find best fitting for this area. So I'd be open to answering any questions if I didn't answer anything there.
Okay, anybody have any questions for Josh? Okay, not seeing any, so thanks, Josh, for that. I think we're
Thanks again.
for any final comments, and then we'll get on to the vote portion of this. Any final comments from anybody? Okay, so I guess we're down to the vote time. So all those in favor? Oh, sorry, Dan, did you have a question?
I just wanted to ask for a recorded vote.
Okay. So with a recorded vote, how do you want to handle this, Karen?
Yep, I'll call out and I'll just have each counselor answer, yay or nay, if we're at the position where you're ready to take a vote.
I think we are.
Okay. Counselor Burke, yay or nay?
No.
Counselor Yake,
No.
Counselor Hearn,
Yes.
Counselor McCabe, you're on mute.
Steve, you're on mute.
Yes.
Mayor Lennox,
Yay.
that's 3 yeas, 2 nays. The vote is carried.
Okay, thank you. So that brings us to 4A. This is in regard to the continued electronic participation in meetings. And I'm going to try to read this out. I'm going to say it's moved by Sherry, seconded by Steve. The recommendation is that Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive report CLK 2020-16, being a report on procedure bylaw amendment to provide for continued electronic participation in meetings, and further that council authorizes the mayor and clerk to sign the bylaw to amend procedure bylaw 024-19 as amended as follows. Insert under definitions, remote meeting means any meeting held that involves the use of an electronic device. Amend section 1.16 to read meeting shall mean any regular, special, remote, or other meeting of a council, of a local board, or of a committee of either of them, where a quorum of members is present and members discuss or otherwise deal with any matter in a way that materially advances the business or decision-making of the council, local board, or committee. Add section 5.3 as follows. All members participating in a remote, open, or closed meeting shall be counted as quorum. Amend section 5.12 to read the following remote meeting provisions shall be permitted. Delete section 5.12b. During such period as declared emergency, all members participating in an electronic open or closed meeting shall be counted as quorum. 5.13c be moved to section 7.26. All minutes and bylaws shall be signed by electronic methods if the clerk deems it necessary. And amend section 8.3 to read, all in-person meetings of council shall be held in the council chambers at the Township Municipal Office located at 7490 Side Road 7 West in Kenilworth. After that mouthful, anybody want to discuss this? Sherry?
Yeah, that I pulled this and I was just really looking for some clarification. We're amending this just while we're sort of, so that it allows us to have meetings during our COVID pandemic until that sort of subsides? Or is this something that if under extreme circumstances somebody breaks a leg or whatever and isn't able to come, are they still going to be able to Zoom in or call in to join that meeting?
Right.
Okay. Karen, do you want to tackle that one?
Yeah, so through you, Mayor Lennox. Right now, the Municipal Act only permits, it previously only permitted remote participation, meaning electronic participation in the event of a declared emergency by the province or the municipality. So the province now has lifted their declared emergency. Ours is still in place, but this will permit us to continue our remote meetings once we lift our declared emergency. We still do not have the ability to do a hybrid version where some people can go to council and be in person and one person can remote in a Zoom meeting. If we wanted to do that, everybody in the council chambers would have to participate through Zoom as well in order to get the remote participant in. It's just we don't have that technology yet. I spoke with the city of Guelph, they don't have that technology yet. So at this point, it's all or nothing. We all Zoom in or we all show up. You know, we can start working on that technology, which then we would need to do our procedure bylaw again to think about things like how many remote meetings are you going to let somebody remote into? 2 in a row, 3 in a row? Are you going to let them, you know, 6 months worth? Like, there's other things to think about, but right now, this is just to continue our participation in remote meetings, meaning Zoom meetings, once we lift our emergency declaration.
Okay. Thank you.
So I think at this point, Sherry, and correct me if I'm wrong, Karen, our intent here is just to allow us to continue to respond to the pandemic. We could, during the pandemic, possibly go back to in-person meetings, but you know, there could be further outbreaks in the communities where we may want to have the flexibility to continue to meet through a Zoom. This, in my opinion, gives us the flexibility to respond either way. But as Karen said, it's either we're in person or we're doing it electronically, where there's no halfway in between.
Okay, no,
I think,
Mayor Lennox, that was when I read this, I guess I needed clarification. So I am more than happy to continue on doing it this way. and deal with things as they come along.
Yeah, and I think the question you raised though is a really good question, because let's say a year from now we have a vaccine and our lives have gone back to something resembling what it was before the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Do we continue to use this provision? And I think that's too unpredictable that I think we have to address that when that arises, as opposed to trying to figure out what it's going to look like right now, as long as everybody's willing to proceed on that basis. Because I mean, theoretically, we could continue to use, based on my understanding of the changes the province is making, we have the flexibility to continue to use remote meetings legally, even for one individual, even though we don't have the technology to do it at a later time.
Right.
The other problem right now is if we decided we wanted to resume in-person meetings, to obtain physical distancing in that chambers with 5 members of council, there might be 1 member of staff that we could get in there. The rest couldn't be in there, and we couldn't have any public there. And without the ability to broadcast our meetings outside, our in-person meetings, outside of recording it and putting it on Facebook, YouTube, we couldn't have any members of the public there. This way, the members of the public can participate remotely as well. I know some councils are moving from facility to facility to be able to physical distance. That's like a whack-a-mole game, I think. Like, the public is kind of always trying to catch up to where we are. You know, there's a lot of staff involved then setting up and disinfecting and cleaning. You know, we would wind up having 1 in Mount Forest, 1 in Arthur. This, for right now, this seems to be working well for the public component, as well as, like, at the beginning of this meeting, we had 24 staff and council members. There's just no way we can have that in our council chambers with physical distancing.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Lisa, go ahead.
I do agree with you, Karen. I think this is a transparent and accessible way to do it, given watching our meetings. So that's awesome. Just a point of clarification. You talked about the BIAs and the rec committee being covered. Is it all committees of council that are covered?
The only committees that have to have meetings open to the public are committees. A BIA is a local board that's defined in the Municipal Act. And the rest are, you have to have 50% membership of council. We treat our recreation committee like that. But for instance, let's say our Lions Blacksmith Shop, they're not under any obligation to have a meeting open to the public, so they can have out before this amendment come, they could have used this technology. Yeah, so your BIAs are local boards, but like the chamber meetings or I'm trying to think of another, we have so many committees.
Well, like my BMX meeting that I had a while ago, I mean, yep. We had to record that. So that would be covered under this?
Yeah, yep. Mm-hmm. But there's many committees that aren't obligated to have meetings open to the public. And before we saw how easy Zoom was, they could have used those. Yeah, they could have used that technology.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? As a quick aside, I had a member of the public approach me, and as I was walking past them at a completely unrelated event, and say, "Keeping by Zoom, we love to watch it." So, yeah, I think it has been well received as accessible to the public. So, if there aren't any further questions, I'll call the vote then. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. I guess that's all the ones we had for discussion, eh, Karen? Okay,
Correct.
so that brings us to notice of motion. Anyone have a notice of motion this evening?
I do not.
Okay. And that brings us to community group meeting program report or other items of community interest. Anyone want to go ahead, Lisa, lead us off.
Sure, why not? I actually haven't had a whole ton of meetings in the last couple weeks. We do have a Mount Forest Chamber meeting tomorrow, but I just wanted to maybe comment on the Buy Local celebration in Mount Forest, and I know that all of council attended that, and I think that's thankful. I think it was a great success, and from the emails that I saw today, I don't know, Dale, are you still on here? If you want to unflick your, there were some pretty good comments. I think I'll let Dale share those with you.
Thank you, Councillor Hearn. Through you, Mayor Lennox. Yeah, I think it was a great day. Weather-wise, we could not have asked for better. Thank you to Council for participating as well as the community. We had a tremendous turnout from the community. Yeah, I don't know what to say other than I think it was a great day. The attendance certainly did slow down in the afternoon, so I think if we were able to do it over, we would probably end the day sooner. But until about 2 o'clock, it was very nice on the main street and very nice to have the main street closed so everyone could physical distance. Majority of people had masks, which was tremendous. And we can only hope for the same weather and turnout on this coming Saturday in Arthur.
And some of the businesses commented that it was their best sale day they've had in quite some period of time, eh, Dale?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, we had about 4 or 5 businesses that said it was their best sales day this year for sure. So that's what it was all about, to support local and shop local. So thanks to all for participating.
That's great. Any other ones, Lisa? Do you have anything further, Lisa? Okay. Anybody else? Steve, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, we had our last Thursday, I guess it was, we had the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority regular meeting, just again by Zoom. They're slowly opening some of their offices. Some staff are allowed to come back into the office, so that's good. Ongoing issues with people that are trying to get into some of the park areas that are closed, but all in all, still pretty good. But I would say that as a reminder, our next rec committee meeting, actually by Zoom, is September 1st at 8:30 a.m.
Okay. Anything further, Steve?
Nope, that's it from yeah, kind of, I guess maybe just to echo a little bit what Councillor Hearn said, the street sale was fantastic. So it was hot, but it was good. So couldn't ask for better weather, and yeah, a lot of good participation as well.
Okay, thanks. Sherry, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, I did. Just a reminder, I didn't see it on the schedule, that the Ad Hoc Advisory Committee for Aquatics is having a meeting tomorrow night via Zoom. Lots of great comments from some of the residents that use the bike racks that were put on the main street in Mount Forest by the BIA, and requests for additional ones. So I've noted that, and we'll take that back to next BIA meeting. And again, just to echo your comments made by the shop local, if Saturdays was any indication as to what Arthur's can be, it will be a great success as well.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, I just wanted to, probably should have done this long before now, but just provide a little update with regard to Wellington North Power. through the COVID-19, the provincial government through the regulator mandated that utilities, defer things like penalty and interest and delay disconnections till later in the year. Additionally, the board of Wellington North Power made the decision to not implement a planned rate increase on May 1st. So we recognize the hardship that residents may be feeling and delayed that rate increase. So if you're talking to someone, the consideration was made for that, of course. And by and large, most people have been paying their bills on time, and it's working relatively well. And construction projects have been continuing. But of course, there was reduction in electricity usage through the pandemic as well, but mostly from the industrial side of the customers, because there were some industrial shutdowns. So at this point, it's looking like the bottom line by the end of the fiscal year will not be as good as we've had the last couple of years, but it's still in positive territory, and we're looking forward to a stronger finish to the year. But just be aware that at the annual meeting, the decision was announced that to defer the dividend payment for this year. That may be a consideration again next year, depending on how things bounce back for the utility. There's so many unknowns these days in every line of business or service delivery. So just wanted to make sure you all had a brief update on that. So I'd be happy to answer any questions if anyone has any. Okay, any other last chance for community group reports? Okay, I think that brings us to bylaws then. So we're going to have a recommendation here moved by Dan, seconded by Lisa, that bylaw number 61-20, 64-20, 65-20, and 67-20 be read first, second, and third time and enacted. Any discussion on any of those bylaws? Okay, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And confirming bylaw, moved by Steve, seconded by Sherry. The bylaw number 68-20 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North at its regular meeting held on August 10th, 2020, be read a first, second, and third time and enacted. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And before I move to the adjournment, I just draw your attention to the meetings notices. So the next council meeting is August 24th. Sherry reminded everyone of the Aquatics Committee meeting. That's tomorrow, right, Sherry?
Yes.
And then Steve reminded us of the Rec Committee meeting, and that was September 1st again. Correct, Steve?
That's right.
Okay. Anybody have any other meetings that aren't on the list that we should highlight? Of course, look forward to seeing you on Saturday in Arthur for the shopping event there. And hopefully, as someone already said, the weather's is good. With that said, we'll move to adjournment. Moved by Lisa, seconded by Dan, that the regular council meeting of August 10th, 2020 be adjourned at 8:08 p.m. All those in favor? That's carried. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
We are
everyone.
officially adjourned.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Have a good week.